Matthew, do what you do, Matthew. It would be cool if you do what you do, Matthew. We're good? We're live? We going? I don't hear me. I'm not sure. But hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to talk. We're going to try to run it. Boom! I hear myself. All right, audience. Sorry about that. Just getting some of the wrinkles out of the sheets here. Welcome back to the 2218's Weekly Attitude for Gratitude podcast. Thank you guys for your patience and still figuring out the technical difficulties, but we're solid. We're good. Matt got it figured out. Matt stepped up this week. Elena, she's not here. Tad, he's not here. It's myself and Matt and our special guest tonight, Ken. You saw I posted it on Facebook, and we'll talk about that a little bit later after we do some checking in. And first thing I want to get to is explain where we're sitting here having this podcast at. 2218, I talk about it every week. It's a place that helped save my life. It's the place that helped save thousands upon thousands of lives. Over the years, it's saved hundreds of thousands. What I want you to know is that everyone's welcome to come down here. We need volunteers. We can use donations, and if you're able to, please do so. There'll be links on here, so just follow the links and donate if you're able to. With that said, I'm going to get right into it. Tad is out on a camping trip. I believe he and a friend went camping this weekend. Little him time before the weather really starts flying. He wanted to take advantage of getting out there and doing some camping. It was one of the things that he said he wanted to do, and he's doing it, and I'm happy for him. And Elena, you guys hear every week, she talks about health care, personal health, personal well-being. Well, she needed a personal night, and I'm all for it. Like, do you? If you need some personal time, that's what we do. We take personal time. She shares about it every week, and we can't just talk about it. We got to be about it, and that's what she's doing, and I'm happy for her. So I know she's listening because she supports the show she's part of. I'd imagine. I don't see her posting anything yet, but I can only imagine she's on here supporting us. So with that said, this is an interactive show. Anyone listening, please interact. You can send us questions. We'll try to answer them as soon as we get them. If you have any ideas for the show, please post those as well. This show is your show as much as it is mine or any of our guests. We want this interactive. That's what keeps this thing pumping, and we just enjoy all the support. With that as well, I think we're good. I'm going to throw my phone number up here. If you don't want your questions publicized or however you want to say it, you just send them to me directly, and I will get to the question. I'm really good about doing that. So my number's going up right now. It's 612-791-9942. And you can also reach out to me on Facebook at Timothy J. Warren. Please do take advantage of that. You're never alone. Just reach out. We choose to sit in our own shit sometimes, and you don't have to. Just reach out. All right, enough of that talk. Matthew, welcome back. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good.
All right. How's your week been going? How has your weeks been going? Haven't seen you for 2 weeks. You were gone over this last podcast show. What's going on with you? Talk to us.
Yeah, I haven't been, like last week I spent Wednesday to this past Sunday, like really just like helping a friend who was struggling. They just wanted to be in my presence because like where I'm at in my recovery. So I went to be a service in a different way instead of like being a service at running my meeting here on Fridays to working the desk on Thursdays. So like for me it was just an opportunity to like get away from my recovery residence where like some things aren't always going good there, but sometimes they are. So it was a way for me to get away from that for a few days and just really help somebody in there like who was struggling.
Cool. No, that's awesome. Did it help?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They chose to go back to inpatient treatment. You know, they made
the choice cool.
Consciously made the choice themselves to do it. I thought like the last time it happened where they had a relapse, they asked me. They asked me like for guidance, like what they should do with like the scenario when they relapsed, like when they were in the inpatient, and so I told them like either they asked if should I go back how I'm right now or should I call. I told them you need to call and let them know. So they called and they told them that they relapsed. They didn't feel comfortable coming back to the residence and possibly triggering somebody else.
Right.
So like I was like happy that they did that. Also like grateful that they did that because it was like showing care for others. So
Oh.
this weekend, like we just spent almost a whole weekend talking to each other, like because they're always like, they don't want to be in treatment, but they know they need it. So they're always like going back and forth in their head, like, do I need to be there? Like either like, I want to be there and or I don't want to be there. So it flip flops some days for them. So like I'm just happy that that person's there and doing well. There's a plan, like because they have a pass this Sunday, so like we're gonna spend some time together and just kind of like see how things are going the next 3 days. So I mean that's what my week's been doing really.
So more or less, it was you were there to listen and just be there for someone in need who was struggling.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. And how'd that work for your recovery?
It gave me purpose.
Hey, so it helped out.
Definitely did.
That's the whole point of this thing. If you ask me, like, I share about this with so many people. Like, there's so many different paths to recovery in my mind. Just a few years of doing this, like, what I see is there isn't just one straight line to the finish. Like, we all find our own paths as we start doing this thing, and our paths might change. Like mine has. I know many of people that I've gotten close with. I've seen it happen. You just find the way that works. Everyone's different. Everyone's story is different. We got to create our own journeys. So things like that, you know what? Trials, tribulations, you go through it, and like you grew through it as well. Like you had
Oh,
an
yeah.
experience with this.
Oh yeah.
So that's a good thing. Like I see nothing negative about that. Communication, you know, we got to work on that.
Yep. Definitely.
Like that's part of the whole deal too. Like communicating.
Yep.
So, and that's good. I'm glad you were able to help someone, and in return, it helped with you.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Like so, how was your week, Tim?
Shit, my week, blessed, baby, blessed. No, I'm staring at my guest, giving him shit. So, I got to do something. It's my parents' anniversary coming up here in a few days, and I was able to send them to a comedy show tonight, Jim Gaffigan. And I didn't really even look at what the price of the tickets were. I just kind of got them last minute, and I didn't buy the best expensive tickets, whatever. My mom sent me a picture. They got there. It was at 7 o'clock, and like at 10 after, she sent me. They're in like the third row, dead center. Fire tickets. So like that felt good. Like that's something I never would have been able to do. Maybe I would have been able to do before like I got into recovery. I wouldn't have. Shit, that would have been money that I was spending that wasn't on me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, yeah.
that's where like things like that. I know I've kind of grown a little bit, like, but I also have to work on it because like I put expectations on this. Like, I bought them tickets to go see a show, and okay, so yes, I bought him these tickets to a show. Sorry about that, audience. I got a text message. I was trying to read that while telling the story. I got him tickets to this show, and like I had these expectations of how their night would go, and like transportation and dinner and blah blah blah. Like I had their night planned out. I learned. I can't keep doing stuff like that. Like here you go. Here's an option, and you guys do with it what you want. That's what I should have done. But instead, in my head, I had some other ideas. But at the end of the day, like I just got a message from her, like, thank you. It was a blast. It was a great show. It was funny, blah, blah, blah. It makes me happy. Like I was able to do something for someone I care for and do it 100 times over. I don't care what it costs. It made me feel good. So selfishly, I was able to give them an anniversary gift. My mom listened, so happy anniversary, Mama. Other than that, yeah, great week. Had a great week. Made the goals group I'm in. Like I talked with all the guys, had conversations with them. Matter of fact, one of the people from the goals group is here tonight, and we'll be getting into that here shortly. Self-care with Elena. She's not here this week, so I'm sorry for everyone who is just on the edge of their seat waiting for a little self-care. Elena can probably post something up there on the live stream about some self-care, I'd hope. Other than that, like, take care of yourself, like Elena did tonight. Like she didn't have to. I could have busted her hump and said like, we need you here, and she'd have came. But take some self-care for yourself. If you need to just take a night off, take a night off. If you need some personal time, take some personal time. That's what we do. It's recovery. Hang on one sec. Talk, Matt.
Yeah. So, like, also my
Hey,
week.
talk about some self-care.
All right. So, like, because Elena's not here for self care, I'm gonna try and talk about something.
Sorry about that. We had some guests showing up out of the blue.
Like a lot of people, like I'm at an outpatient at New Way, and like the topic this week was like relationships. You know, we spent the day today, like the end of the day today, talking about boundaries and all this. Like, and I actually spoke up and said, like, if you look at our values and our boundaries, it'll turn into core beliefs that we choose to follow through the rest of our life when we get sober. You know, a lot of people don't know that like when you take your values that are important to you and pick boundaries and set boundaries with people, that those boundaries can turn into a core belief of like, I want to like, don't like smoke in my house is like can become a core belief, like where you choose not to do it yourself, where you go outside your own house to smoke, but you also maintain that boundary with other people, like friends that come over.
Setting boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Healthy boundaries.
Oh yeah, healthy.
No, that's good. Thanks for stepping up there. I got all frazzled. My guest looked at me. He's like, someone's at the door. And everyone knows we're in the middle of the most important podcast in the Twin Cities right now. We can't be bugging at the door.
Because I'm here.
Because Ken's here. But it's all good. It was a past guest at the door coming to show some support. So with that, everyone, again, this is an interactive show. Please interact. Please post questions as you feel necessary or that you want our guest to answer, myself or Matt.
Or me.
Yeah, our guest, Matt. You know, you're our guest. So with that, I'll say it again at the end of the show is like, you're not alone and you are loved. Stick around, network with each other, reach out for help. If you need help, you have to reach out for it. No one knows you're hurting unless you ask or let it be known. Please do that. Also, share this show. Please share it off this link that you're watching right now. Anyone that you think could benefit from hearing about some recovery, anyone that you want to hear about some recovery, or whatever the case is, share this show. And you know what? Our guests, they're figuring it out. Like, you know, you're on a show, usually you turn your phone down or silence it, but we figure it out as we go. Other than that, you know what? I think it's time we chop this up. Huh? Let's chop it up.
Definitely.
Ken, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, we don't chop it up no more.
Not like that. Who are you?
My name's Ken, person in long-term recovery. What that means for me is I haven't robbed anybody today, which is a good thing. I have a job. I pay taxes. I have a home. I have a credit score. And beyond that, I got a little peace in my life. And for that, I'm forever grateful. And for me, gratitude is definitely an action. If I don't act grateful, I'm not going to feel grateful for long. So I'm real grateful for Tim and Matt over here. I get so thrown off that he don't have his
do-rag.
banging headband on, and you know he's throwing me off. He actually looks like a productive member of society over here, which is awkward for me.
That's, you know what? That's what everyone says to me before I got to know him. They're like, you know, Headband Matt. Like, that's who they knew him as, Headband Matt. You're right.
Or Rambo.
Speaking of that, I forgot to introduce you as who. Ken is someone I met probably 3 years ago at Will Work for Recovery. We used to have we still do have this men's meeting Wednesday night. He doesn't really much remember me, apparently. Dude, do you have a silence button? Like, oh, you don't have a cool iPhone.
No, I was working on like seeing who was listening, and so that's actually the podcast.
Oh yeah, the podcast. So check it out. I know Ken from 3-4 years ago. We knew each other. I knew him. I
didn't remember him.
Yeah, I feared Ken because he was like assertive and he was solid on the shit he would say. Like, we're in a goals group, a men's meeting. Like, it's not a structured meeting. It's far from structured.
Yeah.
And like we go in there, and it's usually a lot of newcomers will come in and be like, "Boo-hoo, poor me. Here's my problem going on." And then you get some guys like Ken or like Justin, even, and he only had like a couple months at that time, or Paul would be in there, and they call us on our shit. Like, someone come in there crying about some living situation, they'll be like, "Well, what are you gonna do about it? What actions are you taking?" Like, accountability. That was a good thing I could say about that meeting. And still, so that was a while ago. And then I don't know what happened. We didn't really, not close or whatever, but it was near the beginning of this summer. You, me, and Rob went for a bike ride after, I think it was a men's meeting. We ended up at Juicy Lucy's. That was the first time I really started talking to you.
No, we had Juicy Lucy. It was at Matt's bar.
You watched us eat Juicy Lucy's.
Yeah, but it was at Matt's bar.
Matt's bar, yes. We rode there.
Not this Matt.
No.
It's not my bar.
You don't own a bar. Nah. So take this out here. But that's where I first met Ken. And we started talking about some experiences he had about some things he did in recovery, whatever. We just were really got into a good conversation. I was picking his brain about whatever. And he was like, yeah, I was on a podcast before. And it was at Shared Recovery with Omar Pinto, right?
Correct.
So I listened to that about, I don't know, 20 times now. Like, I've listened to it a lot. It's a great story. And, like, if I'm not mistaken, you guys talk about it on the show. Like, you flew down to
Right.
Costa Rica,
Yeah.
and the first recording didn't record.
Yeah, so I met Omar. I was at a some sort of NA meeting over south, and all these people are talking about this podcast that they had done, and I'm like, do they not know who I am? Why have I not done this podcast? So I went up to Omar after the meeting, and I said, hey, man, I want to do your podcast. And he said, okay, well, we can set up Skype. I said, no, I want to fly down to Costa Rica to do your podcast. And he was like, oh, yeah, okay. Because he's heard this a number of times.
Right. And no one shows up.
Right. Well, I flew down there. And so I did the podcast. But what was crazy is, you know, it's just like with anything in life. I believe everything in life has its time and it has its place. You know, I believe everything is exactly how it's supposed to be. You know, and I mean, you know, that sounds real gifted and nifty and all that kind of stuff. But when you start really having experiences with life where you're really in touch with that, like amazing doors begin to open. And so I was supposed to get off the plane and do the podcast. And he was involved in some really crazy training for some stuff that he's into. And I ended up having a whole experience in Costa Rica, you know. And if you want to hear about the experience, go ahead and listen to the Share Recovery
Yeah,
podcast.
because you do go into that detail about it.
Yeah, but kind of the one part that dang man, what are you trying to get? You trying to get mood lighting in here?
Yeah,
or
kind
what?
of. If we're upstairs, it's way different. This is better, right?
I think that you guys are scaring me right now.
I just like this better.
yeah.
All right, so you guys do go into detail about your trip.
But so you know, so I'm not going to get into that. If you want a link, you can ask for it on the page, and I'll send the link. But we recorded it, or didn't record it, as it may be, and I went all in. I'm talking tears. I by the time this was over, I was absolutely spent. He then looks at me as he's trying to find the recording. And this is an hour and a half or 2 hour podcast, right?
Of straight you talking, basically.
Yeah, where I just poured my guts out, right? And he was like, you're not going to believe this. It didn't record. And I'm like, what? I was like, oh, no. So we ended up going out for breakfast, coming back, and doing it again right before I left for the plane. When I finished the second podcast, I absolutely knew why it didn't record. 100%. It was literally the most concise, put together piece of, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it
Life
was my,
information,
yeah,
yes.
it was my life in a way that I don't think had ever been transcribed or told in that concise of a way. And I understood it. And sometimes, you know, we were talking about self-care. We were talking about, or you guys were talking about that, you know, and sometimes even in my own self, you know, I understand the power that I have as a human being.
Right.
You know, like, but I didn't understand, like, the world, the reach, the gravity of my story until I spoke and had a worldwide audience, like literally a worldwide audience. And I've had this opportunity to get these messages. And there's a guy in New York. This man started messaging me, and I've had the opportunity to have a reciprocal relationship with this man. He told me that he listened to my podcast every day.
Yeah, yes.
And it gave him the strength to continue to walk through some of the things that he'd been walking through in his life. And, you know, at some point I plan on flying to New York to see him, you know, and it's just been this amazing journey of the people that I could touch and the power of my story and the power of who I am, you know. And I say this in meetings all the time, which is the fact that, like, the world doesn't need another me. The world needs a you. The
Right.
world needs a you that's having an experience with spiritual things in your life, you know. And I share this all the time in meetings too. You know, it's called the language of the heart. Some people will listen to me talk and they'll go, "Oh my gosh, I get it. I get what he's saying." And that's not coming from the head. That's coming from the heart. You know, and then there's some people that hear my message and go, "Geez, I wish this dude would shut up." You know, because they can't hear what I'm saying. I've seen people get up and walk out of meetings when I start sharing. Like,
I find that not hard to believe, but every time all right, when you and me chop it up, like, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm enamored with you when you talk, but there's a reason why I was so gung ho, like, dude, we need to get on air and talk, like, because you're right, the message you have to share and the experiences you've had, they are worth people hearing. And you're right, people have that option to be like, I ain't trying to hear it. I've listened to you speak 3 different times at meetings or shares. One dude got up, and that's because baby mama, he had a reason. It wasn't because you were sharing. Although you did give the audience an option to tell you to shut the F up. And I think one person raised their hand, but I think they're busting your balls. That was in here at 2218. But bro, like, when you talk, it is from the heart. You're one of the only people I've heard say that about, like, this is because I told you I've listened to your share more than once, and like, you're adamant about being like, this is a language of the heart.
did you know that actually comes from old school AA? There's actually
No.
a book called The Language of the Heart.
See, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Like, the dimes you drop on me, whether you're like, Paul's always saying that shit. He's like, these aren't my sayings. Like, I just remember them and repeat them. But whatever the case is, like, the stuff you say to me, a lot of the things, like, maybe I jail well with hearing it, but I'm not the only one. You know that too.
I do.
We've had that conversation, like, and I'm gonna kind of get into it, like, with where your employment and your work and this and that comes into play with your recovery. Like, that goes hand in hand with your life today.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with that. I believe that, you know, it does take a special individual to do the work that I do. The population of people that I work with, the demographic, you know, it's just like me. Bottom of the barrel. You know, you don't come to my job when the first nip of the ringer of alcoholism and drug addiction comes into your life. Like, we're the last house on the left, right? And one of the things, though, that I'm very careful about is that is not my recovery. That is a place where I do a job, and I do that job so that I can eat, right? But my spiritual center is outside of that, you know, and I think that people that work in the industry that I do, which is, you know, the treatment center industry, a lot of times that becomes their identity. That becomes their recovery. And you'll watch a lot of people that are in this program that get into the chemical dependency field, and they end up getting loaded.
Right.
You know, no, I'm there and I get paid to do a job. Now, yes, my recovery speaks through my job.
That's the fine line. Like, I've been picking your brain about this for a while. Your job, what you do, and we didn't say where you work. We don't need that info.
And that won't happen.
No, but you're in the treatment industry. You are in the rehabilitation industry. Like, you work with people like who we are. You work with alcoholics and addicts and people like with health, mental health. But the benefit you get in your own recovery through what you do at work, like that fine line of how you don't take your work home with you. And even our producer be on some old loud phone stuff, but that's okay.
Well, and you know, it's hard at times not to take it home with me. You know, I am pretty good at shutting it off. The thing about it is, you know, and I've been saying this a lot at work lately, and I say it in meetings, and I'll ask guys and gals, what do you think the hardest part for me being in long-term recovery is? Or what do you think the hardest part for me in this job is? And I'll get a whole mix of answers. And I'll listen. And then I will look and I will say this. The hardest part about recovery for me and the hardest part of my job for me is watching people give up on themselves before they ever give themselves a chance.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's so heartbreaking. But I remember being in that place. I can remember being in the place where I continually gave up on myself before I ever gave myself a chance. You know, and it's one of those things where it's like, you know, at a certain point, you know, they call it the pink cloud. I don't know. What I call it is the fact that, like, after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, it's like you are just so happy to be free of the dogmatic way of life of continuing day in and day out of doing the same thing over and over and over and over, right? And you look at people in your life, you know, and they're just happy that you're not stealing their stuff anymore. They're happy that you're not lying into anymore. And so I feel like you have this elated feeling, right? But then after a certain time, like life shows up, like real life shows up. You know, there gets to be a point where you can't hide in the rooms. You can't, well, you can, but, you know, like at
Like
some
time
point,
to start growing up.
yeah,
type.
like at some point, like you have to move on with what you're doing. And then all of a sudden, like reality hits like a ton of bricks, you know? And so like there's this certain thing that happens in early recovery, right? Like our family start, you know, in most cases, you know, and obviously there's the rule and then there's exceptions to the rule.
When we speak from our own experiences.
Right, which is, you know, the family comes back and, you know, I make a little money and I got this and then I got that. But, you know, then all of a sudden it's like you hit this wall where it's going to be like, what are you doing this for? Because,
Are you mean internally or other people asking you?
well, no, I mean, like, what are you really doing this for? Like, are you trying to change your life or are you trying to change the conditions of your life? Because those are two totally different
Big
things.
time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like finding that motivation to keep you doing it.
Right.
Because a lot of people say like they're kids or like something else, but sometimes it's always about yourself. No matter what it is, it should always be about yourself while you're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a balance in that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that as far as motivation, I'm not motivated to do this every day, right? I'm not. Like, I would lie. I would be.
So wait, you get to that point. I cut you right off, but you get to that point where, what am I doing this for? Is this after your pink cloud, or when did this come into play for your recovery? Like,
So-
when does that hit hard?
Okay, so first of all, I'm speaking in generalizations.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
And the reason why I say that is because at this point in my recovery, I can't even tell you what my early recovery looked like. I don't know. I also, yeah, I can't tell you what it's like to feel high.
It's been that long.
It's been that long. My surrender date to surrendering to that lifestyle was 4/20 of 2012. You know,
We celebrate clean time.
always remember that's the only clap that doesn't need a pill.
Ah, and we
I
got
don't know anything
jokes.
about that.
Sure.
But
So generally, you're like, that's a basic. No, that can't be, because we talk from experience, and you got to a point after you were saying from pink cloud to then you get to a point of, why am I doing this?
well, and that's what I was getting to before I was cut off.
No, I know, and we're both sorry for that.
No, it's okay.
We be jumpy sometimes.
No,
we
it's
get
okay.
excited when someone's in here with some info.
I hear
So
you.
yes, that's why I tried to
hear
reel
you.
it back to that.
So, but you talk about this concept of motivation, right? I do not wake up every day motivated for recovery. It's not a thing for me.
Right.
You know, and if you could see me right now, I wake up usually with 2 fingers in the air. You know, but that date that I talked about, it's not even necessarily for, you know, you talk about sobriety date, you talk about sober or clean time, or, you know, you talk about the debate of NA or AA or whatever. What that is for me, that date is a date that I surrendered to living a certain way of life. And I choose not to go back to living that way of life, whatever that looks like.
Right.
Right. And so, you know, recovery isn't based on drugs or alcohol or just mental health. It's not just based on, you know, bad relationships. Like, recovery is whatever it is that is disturbing me inside that I am trying to transform into a better way, a different way, a more evolved way of thinking, living, feeling, my emotions, my thoughts, my spirituality. Like, that to me is what recovery really is.
right, growing up.
Yeah. Growing up
like
and growing
the-
old at the same time.
So you got family, everyone's coming back in your life, your early recovery, everything's coming back. Like life's starting to come back. Like the way it's supposed to be. Because a lot of us, 10, 12, 13 years old, life never even really started. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
You're so young when we start doing this thing. Like, I just came to that conclusion, and I told my brother, I was like, bro, like, I was 36 before I had a clean 1 day of no mood altering anything in my head. First day since I was 13. That's a long time of not ever being clear. But now you're talking about that's just substances. Now to start living life.
Well, yeah, because I that's that differential piece of sobriety /
Yes.
recovery, and I'm recovering from all sorts of things other than alcoholism or drug addiction.
Like the hopeless state of mind or the...
No, not even that. Like I'm recovering from being a child of sexual abuse. I'm recovering from, feelings of less than. I'm recovering from, core belief structures that were instilled in me as a child. Whether it was through the family dynamic, whether it was from, societal, whether it was from growing up in school, from being teased. There's all these core beliefs that I continued to pick up as I grew through life, And so, like, recovery for me is beginning to unravel all of those things. And so I came in here with all sorts of problems other than alcoholism or drug addiction. Like, I say in when I'm in meetings, if I'm in an AA meeting, I say I'm an alcoholic and my problem is Ken.
Right.
If I'm in an NA meeting or a CMA meeting, I say, I'm a drug addict and my problem is Ken. And the reason why I do that is for the identification piece of those that I'm speaking to. But if you listen to the one thing that remains the same, the problem is Ken. Drugs and alcohol are solutions to the problem. And see, for a long time, drugs and alcohol worked for me. They worked with me. Then all of a sudden, they did these things for me. And then all of a sudden, they started doing these things to me, right? And so I think that's a really clear distinction because drugs and alcohol weren't bad.
No.
And and to this day, they're not bad. They're not bad. Like, alcohol and drugs saved my life. They saved my life. They gave me a feeling of connectedness. They gave me a feeling of power. They gave me a feeling of just being okay in my own skin. Because if I look back at my history, right, by the time I'm 10 years old, I'm huffing gas. By the time I'm 10 years old, I'm getting drunk. By the time I'm 13, I'm smoking weed every day. By the time I'm 19, I'm sticking a needle in my arm. So to go from that progression, starting at the age of 10 years old, said some things happened to me as a child and as I began to grow in life.
They served a purpose. Would you say, is that...
Yeah, they did serve a purpose. They not only served the purpose of keeping me alive long enough to where I could get to where I'm at today, they served the purpose of me having a message, right? So a lot of the guys that I work with are multi-convicted felons like myself. I work with a lot of counselors. They come at things from a clinical point of view. Some of them have been drug addicts and alcoholics, and some of them have not been drug addicts and alcoholics. And I do want to share a little side note, which is that I've worked in this industry long enough to know that there's people that are not drug addicts and alcoholics that are way more messed up than us drug addicts and alcoholics.
That's where I have
definitely.
a question for that down the road here for you.
Yep. So as I've worked in this industry, the cool part about the position that I have is I am not a clinical licensed LADC. I'm what's called a peer recovery specialist. So I would say that I have the ability to use more of my life's experiences to be able to affect the person that I'm working with.
Affect versus... I say help. You don't see it...
It's a lot of like relating to them too, because you know what they're going through. In some form of way, you can relate to what they're going through.
Okay, so I agree with both things that you guys are saying, but I have a different...
I'm asking. I'm just asking.
Right, and what I'm trying to say is I actually relate to what both of you guys are saying, right? I look at things a little bit different. We start talking about help, right? I'm helping you. Help has a weird connotation to it to me. That's like saying you're in need of this thing and I'm in this place and I'm going to help you.
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Or what did you say?
Relating to him.
Okay, yep. So that's another thing. So I got a guy, and he wants to be a peer recovery specialist. And you know, one of the things that I'm working at work right now is not swearing. Anybody that knows me knows mother
wait-
effer is like one of my favorite words.
You
Or
wake up
two-
with two fingers in the air.
or two words, right?
Yep.
So my previous employment, I felt really comfortable. I knew a lot of the people I work with, and I swore all the time, right? So when I got into this job where I'm at now, I had the ability to reconstruct my career, right? So when I walked into that first job, I was raw talent, and I'm going to circle back to you. So I was raw talent. I had these, I have these great abilities to connect with you, to identify with you, to understand you, right? But they didn't hire me for understanding, right? So as I transformed from there to where I'm at now, I got this opportunity to totally rebuild what I wanted myself to be seen as a career. So I'm talking to this guy, and it's so crazy. Now at my job, when people use the F word, it's mainly clients. When they use the F word all the time, I'm like, oh, I can feel it, right? And so this guy wants to be a peer recovery specialist, right? And so I get him outside, right? And I ask him, you know, do you know why they hired me here? He's like, just
To the
what you said.
client? To the client?
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm out back in the alley, right? And so when I'm at work, I'm a professional, right? Professionals don't use the F word every other sentence because I can use extremely large words. I have a plethora of words, a very wide vocabulary, right? And the second that I start using these plethora of words, and then I say F, plethora, F, plethora, F.
It negates all- yeah.
It negates everything that I just said, right? So for me, swearing is part of my language. But it's more so used for accentuation or punctuation, right? So we're outside, and I give them the me. So I have this ability to speak in two ways, right? I can speak professional language. I can transcribe like what you're saying me, and I can put it in professional language to be able to send it to a court system, to be able to send it to a parole agent, right? And that's through transcribing whatever words that you're using, right? So he says, I said, do you know why they hired me? And he's like, because you can relate to people, to us, right? And I said, absolutely not. That is not why they hired me. They hired me because I have a piece of paper that says I can do X, I can do Y, and I can do Z. Guess what? I said, it's a bonus that I can relate to you. That's a bonus, right? And so I believe, you know, there's a lot of things that we get caught up in language, right? So we don't even realize some of the things that we're saying. So one of my biggest things is try, right? I'm trying. I would like every single one of you listeners to look at whatever's in front of you, whatever's alongside of you, and hopefully it isn't a meth pipe, and try to pick it up. Now, most people will either stare at it or they will grab it, right? Because there's no such thing as try.
There's do.
There's either I do or I don't, or I'm working towards it, right? So that's one of these ideas. So this idea of help, right? Or this idea that, you know, everything is based on being able to relate with somebody. Now, for me to really truly be able to like reach into your core, that's that language of the heart piece.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But I have to have enough sense, enough education, enough experience, enough wisdom to really be able to articulate what that language is speaking, right? And so for me, that's not help. You know what that is?
What?
Being of service. I get to be of service to you. Because, see, service for me implies a separation of me being emotionally attached to the fact that I'm helping you. You need help, right? So this idea about being of service. And so these are some of the things that have really taken root in my life. You know, these are some of the things that, you know, through cultivating my profession and cultivating my spiritual life and cultivating my emotions and my thinking and my actions, like these are the things that I've come to realize about life, right? And so there's these things that we tell ourselves, like I'm trying. So trying either says that I'm setting myself up for failure, right? Or if I didn't achieve what I feel like I should have achieved, then I tried.
Is that a cop out? It's a
Kind of. You know, and so a lot of the things that I'm very careful about, right, when we talk about career, when we talk about spirituality, when we talk about being a member of some sort of 12 steps, when I talk about being a member of my family, when I talk about being a human being, right? Like, how do I relate to you? How do I relate to you? You know, and I think that that relation piece is so important. And the better that I can relate to myself is the better that I can relate to you, right? And so that's one of those powerful pieces. And the only place that that comes from is an awareness of self, right? So this awareness of self piece has become the most powerful thing in my life. You know why? Ain't no double wide caskets.
I love that. I love it. I try to regurgitate that to someone.
Ain't no
and
double wide
just-
caskets, right? So it's great that we have this program of recovery. Like without AA, for me specifically AA, I would not have the life that I have today, right? But at some point, AA is not enough for me, right? So I talked about this idea of, you know, all these things that happened to me. So I believe that I was born perfect. So I always thought like the steps of AA were going to add something to me and I was going to be okay. I can still remember sitting in jail listening to, his name was Brian, and he'd have his guitar, and he was a preacher, and he was a good man. He was a good man. And I can remember thinking, if I just have what he has, I'd be okay. If I just had what he has, I could stay sober. And I'd get out of jail, and I would go, and I remember stealing a 40 and getting drunk right out of jail, right? No matter the consequence.
No remorse.
And I don't know, remorse, I guess, is not.
When you're saying you want, if you just had what he had, were you talking about just the knowledge he had, or?
I don't know. I just remember thinking,
If I had what he-
have what he has, because I was always judging my insides by your outsides.
Okay.
And I never really understood what that meant, except for the fact that I didn't realize that other people on the planet had feelings. I didn't know that they felt anxiety. I didn't know that they felt fear. I didn't know what any of that was that you had.
So you just thought you were alone on an island with your feelings, up until what? Like you found these rooms, or how to start to know who you were? I know that's deep as shit, but like.
No, I think you're dissecting it too far.
But no, like you're talking about, you didn't know someone else who had anxiety. You didn't know someone. You know what I'm.
I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is, I had no awareness that other people had the internal conditions that I had.
Okay.
So, you know, I think a lot of what we got going on is like semantics. You
Yeah.
know, because, you know, that's one of the things about life too is people have, you know, there's what you saw, what I saw, and what really happened.
Right.
Right. And so, but this idea that I was getting at, so sometimes I'm looking for the larger point, right? So the larger point as I'm beginning to paint this picture is the fact that I was born perfect.
Okay.
But then as I grew, the world started doing things to me, right? Or what I perceived as to me. Because we're going to get to a concept later on, which is through me, not to me. But that's a little bit beyond where we're at right now. So I looked at him and I thought, God, if I had what he has, I'd be okay, right? I would go to AA as I grew on, and I was like, I would listen to somebody speak and I go, gosh, he sounds good. If I could sound like him, I'd be okay, right? So this process of spiritual growth I thought was a process of addition. It wasn't. It was a process of subtraction. Because I was born perfect, but as the world began to do things to me, I began to strap on armor. You are no longer going to do this to me anymore, right? I used to get beat up, so I started beating people up. So as I strapped on this armor, like the ego had built itself in a way that I was able to protect who I thought I was inside, even not knowing who I was inside. So like these steps, when I looked at these steps, like they were a process I thought of addition, but really what they were was a process of removal. It was removing the things that I had constructed within inside myself, which stopped me from being connected to you.
Okay.
Right? So as I begin to work these steps, some things started to get removed, right? And so there's been this long process. Okay, so I've been sober most of the last almost 20 years. I have now been sober longer than I've been high in my life. And I'm 41 years old. I've used for 30 months in the last, going on since 2004, right? So through this whole process, as I began to remove these things, we talked about this relation piece. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I've done all sorts of things other than AA. So the last time I got loaded, I had almost 5 years sober, right? And it's so funny. I got this tattoo on my back with my sobriety date, right? It says 4105. Only the strong survive, right? Oh, that rhymes, but really it's a cross and it says this. And I thought about when, after I relapsed and got sober again, covering it up. No. You know why? It was perfect. I thought I was going to be sober the rest of my life. April Fools.
Oh,
4105.
4-1.
Right?
Hell no.
Right? So there was some things that happened in my life. Some days I suffer with mental health issues and some days I live with it. At this point, I'm suffering from mental health issues. I got an eating disorder. I have these bad or unhealthy, toxic relationships in my life, and I don't have a relation to myself. And the pressure got really great, and I got loaded. And so I expected to die that way. On December 25th of 2010, I OD'd on heroin and meth. And yeah.
2010.
Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. And I expected to die that way. I can remember.
Like not welcomed it, but you were gonna be at that time where your head, you were just okay with
yeah,
it.
and the person that saved my life, I threatened to kill him
Oh.
because I had what I wanted.
Mm.
And I woke up in the ICU, and they told me I needed to find a sober ride, and I said, I'm not sober. And they said, sir, you have more drugs than you and this whole unit combined. I walked out, I found a sober ride. I walked out of the hospital with a hospital shirt, no shoes, no wallet, no phone. And I can remember the girl that I was dating at the time when I got back to the house. She had put pictures of my dead brother on my desk. And I snapped. I think she thought maybe I could come to a realization about where I was at in my life and maybe try to change it. And instead, I took one of the needles that was on the floor because they didn't take it. They didn't find my dope. I got caught with like 0.6 grams, but they didn't find my box with all my dope in it. And I basically shot up on the same spot I died with one of the needles that may have been the one that put me under. And that's where I was living, right? And so I expected to die that way. So when I got sober this time, big long journey of how I managed to get sober. I'm not even going to get into all that because really, if you ever want to hear it, you can come find me in person. I'm not hard to find.
I'll help you guys find them.
Well, I've heard his story.
Yeah. So when I got sober this time, right, all sorts of things changed for me. There was this sense that I had before, which was no sense of self. And man, I became aware of so many things that I wasn't aware of before. Mental health, eating disorder, sexual trauma, poor relationships. And I've spent the better part of almost a decade unraveling that. And so one of the biggest things that I've learned throughout this time life happens through me, not to me, right? So this concept that I had that there was these external things in the world. Now that's not to say if I'm around negative energy, that's not if to say if I'm around people that are doing a certain thing, because I will get sick before they I will get sick from a sick person before they get me well, right?
Right.
Like, so that's not to say that. But what it is to say is that my life is happening through me from the inside out. So outside circumstances of my life, they may affect my internal condition, but really in the end, my internal condition is what will continue to affect my external circumstances. Because through that internal condition, and if I have an awareness of self, I'm able to make moves to be able to either keep my external situations the same or to change those external situations, right? So these are the concepts that it's taken me 41 years and almost 20 years of not quite continuous sobriety, but pretty close. I've used for 30 months, like I said, since 2004, right? So through these concepts, I've been able to center myself in a life today that I enjoy. But they included some things that were outside of Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, whatever anonymous you want to talk about, right? I went to the Emily program. So I believe that if you're having a problem with drinking or drugs, go to AA.
Yep.
Go to NA, right? If you're having a problem with food, seek out a professional that knows about food. My sponsor isn't the beginning and the end all of life, right? My sponsor is a great person. He doesn't know about what it takes to be a psychiatrist, to be able to work with med management, right? My sponsor is a great person, but when it comes to sexual trauma, right, I might want to seek out a professional to be able to unravel these things. So as I began to walk through life, I began to build a team of professionals, which is something that's been really important to
Right.
me. But I will say this. Alcoholics Anonymous and being spun dry from drugs and alcohol gave me the clarity of mind enough to be able to seek out these professionals.
I know you're going down and telling us the story here, and I want to hear, but I want to kind of pump the brakes a little, if you're comfortable with it.
You do whatever you got to do.
Listen,
you
what
run
I
this ship.
No, I don't.
I know,
You
I'm
guys
not-
do. Our guests do. This is your show. Like you.
Then why you
you're-
stopping me?
Because what's the Emily Project?
Oh, it's the Emily program. So the Emily program is a eating disorder
Okay.
Treatment center.
Now, I heard you say something once before that I don't want you to skip over because I don't want to forget about it. But when I brought it up the other night, when working with medical professionals, like when you finally found what worked, like what was that experience and how was it brought to you? Do you remember what I'm talking about? When someone's working with you, and versus just touch on that real quick and then we can keep it pushing.
No,
I think
I-
that's real important for people to hear that made you real comfortable to finally hear a professional say something like, what are we?
Yeah, and
Not this is what.
yeah. So first of all, I'm extreme, and I'm just talking a lot of smack. 'cause-
We do that.
Yeah, I know.
Bro.
And we talk about running the ship, what I just said, but really it's the transference of energy, right? So without you and without him, we can't have this conversation in whatever context we're having this conversation. I think that's important. So one of the things that you had said, and then I'll relate to the specific experience that you're talking about, is you said you said something about the medical thing or the doctor thing, and I'm like, which one? In my head, I'm like, which one? Because there's a lot of them. But what was said when I sat down in Dr. Roberts' office that day, I had been seeing a lot of well-meaning nurse practitioners, a lot of well-meaning professionals, and they had been shoving pills down my throat. And a few of them almost killed me. A few of these pills that they gave me almost killed me. And when I went into his office, I said, I feel like you're not going to understand me and you're not going to hear me. And he said, I want to tell you something. He said, do you realize that's one of the greatest fears in the world of every human? That you won't be heard or understood. He said, this isn't about me telling you what to do. This is about you and I doing this together. And that transformed my life as far as doctors, friends, family, co-workers, significant others.
It was this one Dr.
children.
Roberts
Yeah.
that said that.
We do this thing of life together. Talks about in the big book, we do this journey, what?
Together.
Shoulder to
Shoulder
shoulder.
to shoulder.
There's no big eyes and little U's in this program, right?
Nope.
And so I'm big on energy. I'm big on transference of energy. I'm big on self-awareness. I'm big on the world happens through me, not to me. I'm big on the fact that, like, I don't speak from a mountaintop. The only time you should be looking down on somebody is when you're holding your hand to pull them up to where you are. Period.
That's real shit.
Period.
When you shared your story here, you weren't up on the stage, and you spoke about it and why you weren't.
And where was I?
Right
on the
eye to eye with us.
In the middle.
Right in the middle.
Between the tables.
Because guess what? Unless I'm in the middle of this program, I'm dead. I'm dead. So I'm going to tell you like this, right? I've had more spiritual experiences in the last 5 years of my recovery outside of the rooms. Outside of the rooms. So they talk about enlarging on our spiritual life. And I want to touch on a few of these things, right? I want to touch on a few of these things. So I've had this experience to have these amazing teachers in my life, right? And so through mental health, I've been in places where I didn't necessarily want to die, but I wasn't happy to be alive either, right? And so I've had to seek out other avenues of things that have allowed me to transform, to evolve, to step into a light that I've never known, right? And so, you know, in this light, in this moment, in these things that I've experienced, I've become more whole, more one, more me than I've ever been. And one of the main things that I've found from seeking these other things out, do you know what the ego actually is?
What? Explain it.
The ego is a conscious or an unconscious separation from. It's a separation from you. It says that I am different from you. It's that I perceive myself to be myself. That's what the ego is. So when I am able to disseminate or I'm able to evolve past, when I'm able to break down the ego, it says that I am one with you. I am connected to you. We are not different. It's even to say that we are literally the same thing.
Ego.
Conscious or unconscious separation from.
Okay.
And so a lot of the spiritual experiences that I've had through listening to different styles of teachers, to listening to different ways of life, I've come to find a connectedness to you. And I would tell you, I've cried more in the last 6 months in a way that's so different than I've ever cried before. It's this weeping. It's this weeping of connectedness. This is understanding of self, this understanding of us, this understanding of we, this connection of spirit, right? And if I would have hidden out in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, Crystal Meth Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, whatever anonymous you want to call them, I would have missed the opportunity to evolve to the spiritual being that I am today. Now, that's not to say I don't wake up with my middle fingers in the air a lot.
But you still did credit, like you wouldn't have found any of that. you gave the credit where you felt it was due a few minutes back. Like I wouldn't have found the clarity without that journey of getting through with these rooms.
Right.
Correct.
Right? Because I think sometimes we get caught up in the dogma.
Yeah.
So we can talk about, and I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off right now. And
We
really,
can't worry. You can just.
I'm not worried. Trust me.
I know, and I
I'm
preach
okay.
that.
And I'm okay with pissing people off. I've been doing it my whole life for less reasons, right? So you can look at the church. A lot of people come into the program of AA with this idea of the church, right? And this disdain for the church. Mm-hmm. I believe church is amazing. It's not my gig, but I have watched the church transform people that are like me up the pathway to the mountain, to be at the top of the mountain for themselves, to be able to help other people.
Right.
But that's, for me, when you're in touch with the spirit of what the church really is, right? But you get people that get caught in the dogma of what church is, which is a human institution that has been used to rule other humans since the beginning of the inception of church.
Yeah, you're gonna get some haters.
And that's okay.
I love it.
But guess what? The same thing can be said for Alcoholics Anonymous.
100%.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
So you get people that are in here that are so upset with the way the church did this, did that, whatever it is, and then come into AA and then do the same thing to the people that are sitting around the tables of Alcoholics Anonymous. Mm-hmm. Right? So now we're going to get on fire a little bit. Right? Like I was pumped up before, but now we're going to get on fire a little bit. Because the dogmatic thinking in Alcoholics Anonymous, the first part of the spirit saved me. The dogmatic part of this program almost killed me.
Yep.
It almost killed me. You get a lot of really well-meaning people sitting around the table parroting other people's experience. You get a lot of well-meaning people sitting around the table parroting other people's experience and then trying to shove this dogmatic view down other people's throats. You know how I know that?
You're one of them people.
I was one of those
You're
people.
one of them people.
I was one of those people.
You preach this from a mountaintop. We learn through our experiences. We have to make these journeys.
Right.
You have to live through this.
And what did I say in the beginning? The world doesn't need another me. This world needs a you that's having an experience with your own life. And Alcoholics Anonymous, I believe I owe a debt to AA that I will never pay back. Do you realize in the last almost decade that I have consistently went to meetings and sponsored people and been sponsored? Consistently.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So AA, pretty much, I can accredit, besides putting in the work, one foot in front of the other,
Yeah.
has saved my life, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of really well-meaning people in this thing have also almost killed me. They almost killed me because of this idea, this dogmatic behavior that says if X is done, if Y is
Right.
done, if Z is done, you're not good enough to be in this program.
Right.
We talk about we don't shoot our wounded. That's bullshit. We shoot our wounded in this program all the time. We got this illusion of time, as if time matters. The only time is now. Time takes time. A blade of grass grows a day's growth in a day's time. Right? How long? What time did you get up this morning?
6:20.
I'm more sober than you. I got
Yeah.
up at 5.
All we got's today.
That's right.
You got about an hour and 20 on me.
Exactly.
But I bet I stay up later than you.
So do you know what the sobriety date actually gives me?
Explain.
The day that I surrendered, it gave me a amount of days to have a certain amount of experiences that may be shorter or longer than you. But that does not create this thing called wisdom. You can have 2 days and be more wise than the man that has 20 years,
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah.
I agree with that.
And so you can have 20 years and be more wise than the person that has 1 day. It doesn't matter. What matters is the institution or the constitution that you have inside of yourself that has allowed you, the institution, to be able to show up to an institution and teach the constitution of who you are.
All right, I'm gonna devil advocate, kinda, because it's where I'm sitting. It's what I gotta do.
You choose to do. You don't got to do nothing.
This
but pay
what
taxes and die.
what I choose to, and I need air and water. I need air, water, and food too.
You don't.
Those are needs, not wants.
That's not true.
In my book, it is. So check it out. Would you? All right. I know the dogma, AA. What you were just saying. I'm not going to repeat it because the articulation's just skyrockets. But you say the dogma of AA killed you, could have killed you, could kill people.
Spiritually, a lot of ways it did. kill
Okay,
you.
but now is this your you can't say this across the board. How, I mean, would you be able to agree with this? Could have just been specific groups of people you were around one too many times.
So
You hear what I'm saying?
I do hear. what you're
Because
saying.
also on the flip side too, like, what if there's a good group that really has your best well-being at hand, that do work this, and they are in these rooms, and maybe you were around this. I don't know. I'm just trying to see another side of that statement of the dogma of AA.
Of course.
You feel me?
Of course, because you can't talk about like having a personal experience and then talk about a specific group not being able to have that experience. It's like the steps are something that is individual, right? And the traditions are something that is for the group, right? So you can have a spiritual centered group, right? And you can have a spiritual centered person, or you can have a dogmatic person or a dogmatic group.
Okay.
But so we start looking at this idea of the overall picture.
Yes.
The
yes.
overall picture, right? And so that's not to say, it's just like, that'd be saying the same thing about the church.
That's what I was getting. Didn't want to cut you off, but there are good churches. There are good AA groups, and there are some out there that don't have this dogma of it.
Right.
That could stick
Right.
and stay and save your life if that worked for you.
So what I wanna do is I wanna read the definition of dogma.
Read it.
Right? A principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as in Whoa.
Come on, wordsmith.
Yeah, really?
Incontrollable.
Yeah, incontrollably true.
Dogma.
Yeah, so a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as what did you say it was?
Is it incontrollably or no?
Incontrovertibly true. Not, for a wordsmith, man, I'm sure, man, that blew me out there. So basically a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority, right? So this authority for me has been these concepts of something that is not of spirit, right? So the idea,
Not of spirit. Man-made.
exactly,
Yep.
exactly,
Man-made.
right,
My idea,
right,
which can kill you.
and which I'm going to control you with.
That's, yeah.
Think of how many people you've watched come in here, right, and go. A lot of that's
More than have stayed.
Yeah, a lot of
Oh,
that's
yeah.
personal, right? A lot of that's something that's personally inside of them, right? But think of how many people you've watched push other people out of this program with the way that they interact with that person.
Daily. Happens every meeting.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it does.
Just about.
Especially you get into, Lord knows I'm sitting in one, in Alano.
Yeah.
Let's just.
No, I'm not talking about this place.
No, I know, but yes, just no. What am I talking about? Yeah, okay. So
I'm
you get
talking
into the
about-
society clubs.
Yes,
Yes.
business
Okay.
entity.
Yes.
a business
It's
entity.
a real.
Yes.
It's real rocky.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about we got traditions and we've got. I know. I've heard some. Let's just say some NA theologists, whatever you want to call them. Some of these people that are really knowledgeable about the traditions and the concepts.
Yeah.
And they'll correlate it
the
with
12 concepts for world service. I wasn't even gonna get on that.
Just,
We weren't even
just
gonna get on that.
I blank statement a lot of shit, which I look like a dodo, but sometimes. So yes, but it was
that
broke down
habit.
like for a Narcotics Anonymous group to be in this is breaking the tradition.
But see, that's the whole thing.
Right.
What people don't realize is this building has nothing to do with traditions.
No, they need to pay rent.
It's a business entity.
It's a business.
It is a business in which the spiritual entity can rent a room for the meeting to take place.
And keep their anonymity, yeah.
Anonymity.
Anonymity.
That one I know how to enunciate. Ooh, enunciation. That's another $3 word.
A $3 word.
Yep. So now there's a reason why I'm going to tie all of this back into what my story is, right? Why I'm talking about all of this. I have a awareness of self today. I have an awareness of how I relate today. And I have my own personal experience of how I show up, right? If you don't believe in anything that I am saying, research it for yourself. If you don't believe in through me, not to me, if you don't believe in the power of spirit, if you don't believe in what I had to say about the church, if you don't believe what I had to say about AA, if you don't believe what I had to say about absolutely anything that I said, go out and get it for yourself.
That's the key.
That's
That's
key.
what you preach. I think above and when I heard you share, like, create your own. I'm sorry, this is for you to say, but this is
No,
what
I
you
wanna hear
preach.
you say it.
This is what you've preached, and I believe like this. That's strong. Like you go be your own man. Go
Yeah.
be your own woman. Make your own life.
Right.
You're just hearing a piece of mind.
Right,
You're hearing the way I'm seeing it through Ken's eyes.
right.
I'm not telling you you're wrong. You're right. I don't think I ever heard you call someone out and say you are wrong.
Right.
I really don't.
Why would I?
But you stand on your own beliefs, which is fucking power to you.
And guess what? Go ahead and tell me I'm wrong.
I
You
don't.
want to know what? I might actually listen. Though.
Yeah, I haven't heard. That's what I'm saying. Like, bro, that's why this is the first of a 4-part series that you're on our show. I forgot to let you know that too. This is the first of the 4-part series. So, like,
Oh wow.
yeah. So
when I
you're
heard
on
it-
3 more times. We got you because we have a co-host who's a little not as happy as he was that he's not here and you are right now. So,
But that's all right. And you want to know what? I want to give a shout out to Tad. You know, Tad taught me a very important lesson about myself, right? So you want to hear all these, we talk about all these great things that I had said, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I've eaten crow a few times. and Tad is one of those crows that I've eaten. That sounds weird.
In a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I've gotten into this place in this program where I have judged other people, right? They're not just Tad. There's another member in these rooms, and I'm actually going to give him a shout out. His name's Keith Campbell.
Oh
right?
yeah, we've had this conversation. I like. Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And the only reason why I'm sharing this, both these guys' names, because I think that it's super important to understand something. So there's a lot of people that hear me speak and say, wow. But there's a lot of other people in this program that are willing to do things that I'm not willing to do. Right? Now, that's not to say that I got mine and, you know, F all you people, but that's to say that I've built this life that I enjoy living and I'm willing to do things and I'm not willing to do some things. So I used to talk smack about Keith Campbell. I used to talk smack.
Keith C. Yeah, Keith C.
It's a little too late for
I
that.
know.
one.
I know. I meant to. Yeah, we try to stay in with an anonymity. Whatever.
Anonymity.
There you go. You're good though. I'm blew some stuff, but we've had this conversation. So
Yeah.
yes,
So,
keep going.
And then Tad's another example. So now it's not to say without good reason that when I watch somebody in this program, and I'm not talking about them, like I'm not talking about them, right? What I'm talking about is my circle is pretty closed, right? I'm willing, obviously, you know,
Yeah.
Tim, I use the the term friend, like when I say like I love my family, and
It means something.
I met you, like seriously met you like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
You're my friend. You're my friend, dude.
Yeah.
Like, honest to
I
God.
not bro, and I could say I love you. Like
Yeah,
I have a
you're-
love for you, man.
Yeah, you're closer to me than a lot of people in my life that I've known for years. You know, I've told you things that I've literally only told like 2 other people in my recent
Energy,
history.
bro. We've had this conversation.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
for some reason, there's a click.
So I watch people's energy. I watch who they are, and you know, there's a lot of sick people in this program, and I pretty much just don't give them my energy, right? But then what that turns into sometimes is a judgment, and it's not even a judgment because if you're a thief, I get to judge you as a thief. If you steal my stuff, I'm gonna judge you as a thief. But if I say you'll steal from me tomorrow, I am now condemning you, right?
Perfect now. It's perfect.
Right.
It's perfect.
So for whatever situations arise in both these relationships and many other relationships in the rooms and outside of the rooms in life, right? There's a part in the 12 and 12 that talks about gossip barbed with something is a polite form of character assassination, right? And I assassinated
Keith?
both of these
Yeah,
guys'
yeah.
character, more so Keith than Tad.
He was making big waves and lot, but no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. So the thing about Keith, right, is he is willing to do all sorts of things that I am not willing to do. What right do I ever have to say anything about him, right? But I found myself doing that.
Yeah.
Now, this awareness piece and this part about really living the program, all of a sudden one day it dawned on me what kind of prick I am, right? And I went up to him and I looked him in the eyes and I said, I wronged you. And this is how I wronged you. And from this point forward, that behavior will not happen again.
You're talking about Tad.
No, I'm talking
Tad
about Keith.
Okay.
Right? And guess what? That behavior has not happened again. Right? And I've had the opportunity to get to know him, right? In a different way than I had before. But I had to have the realization of the awareness of self, being willing to look into his eyes and have a non-separation from, because that was my ego, right? And to make things right. Same thing. So this is actually, this one hurts my heart, you know, with Tad. So whatever reason, something happened a long time ago and I got it stuck in my head. And that's not to say maybe left, right, or indifferent, the thing didn't really happen.
And you know what? I think maybe in the future that might, when he's here, you guys talk about
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
I do believe that.
Right.
But that's for then.
The thing about this is this. I came, so probably like 6 years ago, me and some other people started the Crystal Meth Anonymous meeting here at 2218. And my ego, about 3 weeks ago, came down here to show off my new car.
love this shit.
Right? And somebody came up to me outside the meeting and they said, "Are you going to the business meeting?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I'm not even going to the regular meeting." Do you not know who I am? Yeah. I'm all spiritual until I start thinking like that. Somehow I end up in this business meeting, right?
Yep.
And there was this cool thing that happened, which they were voting on some things, they were doing some things, and I was actually really grateful to see it having a business meeting, right? And then I said, "Can I say something?" And they said, "Yes, please do." And I got up and I spoke like an elder statesman, right? So there's these two things that they talk about in some of the literature, which is an elder statesman or a bleeding deacon, right? So the bleeding deacon is always going to tell you what you should be doing, what this is, what that is. Do you know who I am? But I had this opportunity to get up and to say, and this was so cool to me, like when we started this meeting all them years ago, this is what we intended. and I got to give my feelings, my thoughts from, all this experience that I've had in the program, right? And things were voted on. And then right as we were getting up, I thanked everybody for carrying on the legacy of this thing that some of us started, right? And I looked, and there's Tad. This guy that I didn't realize this had asked me to sponsor him years ago. And I told him you should ask somebody else. Now, there's a reason. It had nothing to do with him at that time. I didn't even really remember it. And most likely it was at this period of my life where I was running this restaurant, and that almost killed me. Not an excuse, but a reason.
You had
right?
life was going on. Okay.
Right. But I didn't remember that. And they weren't necessarily linked, but moving forward, I ignored him. I acted as if he wasn't there. And I was like, I just don't mess with him, right? But as I got up that day, when I thanked those people for carrying on the legacy of something that we had started,
Yeah,
something
you're
that
part
was
of it.
amazing,
Yes.
something that was great.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you. He's like the main one. Not to take away from you or the other people, because there's also been many other people that came before Tad, right?
Yes.
But right now, he's like one of the main people.
Yeah.
And I've been treating him like garbage by ignoring him.
Do you even know why?
Do I know why?
Do you even know why you don't?
I mean, make something up.
Nah, that's what I'm saying. So you don't even know why.
I have an idea of what.
But whatever. It's,
Right. So when we walked outside, I looked him in his eye, and I told him I wronged you. And from that today forward, that stops, right? And I watched him chain smoke cigarettes, and then after I said what I had to say, he got to talk. And he said something to me that literally changed my life a couple weeks ago. He said, all I ever wanted was for you to acknowledge me. And I had asked this thing of you, and I didn't get it. And I've always wanted to not necessarily be you, but I've always just wanted for you to help me. And that hurt.
right.
That hurt because I can't say that I walk about this program and I'm not of service to people, right? But sometimes through my own conscious separation from you, my condemnation of you, I can hurt people and not even know that they're walking around hurting, right? And so I really want to wrap this up, right? Even though I don't wrap it up, but whatever. With a few things, right? I've talked long enough, right?
Yeah, hey, bro. I got a list of questions people have been bugging me about for this whole. I'm not cutting. No, you want to wrap up? We're going.
No.
Bro.
I want to give the listeners what
They're
want.
gonna.
Maybe then it'll tie more so into how I'm going to wrap up. But I do want to finish this thought about him.
And then I'm going to be dropping some heat on you. Yeah.
Okay. I want to finish.
You didn't think you were going to say all that shit. My listeners weren't going to be on you about some
Ain't
stuff.
nobody listening to me.
Shit. You think?
I got like 12 different feeds with about 30 people on them.
Oh, really? Wow.
Come on. Ken came on tonight, baby.
I'm not much, but I'm all I think about.
Ah.
So I want to instill this because we talked about the dogma of the church. We talked about the dogma of AA. We talked about like this conscious separation from. And here was this man, right? That all he wanted was for me to acknowledge him. And guess what? I didn't. And that hurt. I'm sure it hurt him for a long time, and I got one pinprick of the feeling that he's been feeling. So as you walk through your life, whether it's out there, whether it's in here, right? Just acknowledge those that are around you, because that is truly the power of spirit. That is truly the connection of the human condition is to be heard and understood and to be acknowledged. Because for so many years of my life, I didn't feel heard, I didn't feel understood, and I didn't feel acknowledged. And that is what I have been given in my recovery.
So you can pray all you want for some potatoes to grow, Ken. But if you don't get out there and plant them, they're not going to grow.
Man, I'm going to Aldi's.
So check it out. Everything you said, like, you put work in though for it.
Yeah.
You've done a lot of work, bro. Like, you just told the whole story. Like, this, there's a lot we didn't get to, and that's why this is a part 1 of 4. Like,
I think you might have just made that up.
nah,
as we were
I'll show you.
going.
I'll show you a message. Like, there's a message about this is 1 of 4 for you, at least 4. Tad had a higher number, and I was like, let's just start with 4. Ken, you got a lot to offer, bro. In the way you speak, we've had this conversation, but there's a lot to go back to here. So this was from a listener. This is a personal one. It was about, all right, clinical versus addicts. But you kind of touched on this, but what's your thoughts? Shit, you usually have multiple guests. What is your thoughts on that? With helping someone, an addict, let's say someone an addict in recovery or at a treatment center. Man, this dude's got.
Where are you going, bro?
He thinks that's more important than the show.
I'm at go.
Tad be doing that same shit sometimes. Like, bro, 2 hours? You just can't for 2 hours? It's all good. So, all right.
By the way, everybody, I would like it noted that he's going out to smoke.
Yeah. That's more important, apparently.
He doesn't like me anymore.
Dodo. He's a young buck. He's trying.
He's not trying, he's doing.
Yeah, we had a whole conversation about trying and doing, too.
Yeah.
All right, back to what I take such a long time to get to questions. Helping someone in your line of work. Do you feel there's any? Because a lot of people will be like, "That's a doctor. They don't know nothing about addiction. All they know about addiction is what they've read and been taught from someone." Versus you, been through addiction. Now, is that even something to even pinpoint or look at? But the question is what do you feel can help an addict better?
Good information is good information.
Cut and dry.
Period.
There's your answer.
100%.
All right, sponsorship. Here's the thing that came in was relationships, sponsorships, resentments, and loss. So basically, I just wrote the topic of what the questions were.
Yeah, that's a really broad array of things.
What's your feeling on getting into relationships in recovery with people in recovery?
Do it till it hurts so bad you don't do it no more, whatever that is.
Sponsorship. What did it take for you to get into sponsorship? How long did you wait for sponsorship to start sponsoring?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's
good. Dude, these are basic questions. There's 5 questions you're getting asked.
Yeah, well, okay, so I do want to elaborate a little bit, right?
Huh.
So good information is good information no matter where it comes from. You can get good information from the person in the gutter. You can get good information from a doctor. You can get good information from a person that you can relate to. You can get good information from anywhere that you are willing to listen to the information.
My man.
I know all sorts of professionals that were drug addicts, and I know all sorts of professionals that aren't drug addicts. And guess what? In my field, sometimes you don't know which one is which.
Right.
That's how good they are.
That's good then.
Right.
So if you're there for the help, take it where it comes from.
That's right.
Or you're there to get better, however you want to.
Or just take the cotton out of your ears. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth and use them accordingly.
Resentments. How do you deal with resentments?
Kill them
How do you kill them?
with a knife.
Do you address them head on? What do you like? Do you just?
No, I'm not talking about literally kill the person I resent.
All right. So resentments.
No, I'm just kidding. You know what?
We're past the comedy show, bro. We serious down here.
To be honest with you, I don't know.
I don't see that as a big part of your story anymore. Like,
No.
you crush that shit before it basically
Because
happens, right?
So like, for me, so there's a big misquote, out of the big book. It says resentment is the #1 offender, right? So if you listen to that, or most people think resentment is the number one thing that will cause you to get drunk, right?
That's how it reads.
No, that's how most people think it
Okay.
reads.
Okay.
Resentment is the number one offender, means resentment is the number one manifestation of self. If I resent you, it's because I'm consumed with me, right? So the less that I become consumed with me and the more that I'm able to rectify the things that I have done in my life, and if I'm willing to cut you a break, I'm actually willing to cut myself a break.
You're one of the only other people I've heard word it like my sponsor did to me. He's like, a resentment, Tim, if you got some, you got what's going on with you.
Life happens through me, not to me.
Cut and dry. But for people like me, I'm gonna just say myself, for me, not people like me. I need it explained out deeper than through me and to me. I do. It takes me a while to get back to
It
that.
took me like 20 years to pull some of these concepts out of my ass.
But they make sense and it vibes through you. Like that's how you live your life.
Yeah, so the three things that I've heard is that I'm in the program, I work the program, I live the program. Like, it's just my modus operandi. You know, it's my MO. It's how I show up, it's how I think, it's how I live, it's how I breathe.
That's what
It's who
MO
I am.
is. Modus operandi.
Yeah, my MO, my modus operandi.
Never know. Never know.
Latin.
See, folks, you're gonna learn on this show. We're gonna teach you today. Loss. Someone asked about loss in your life. What have you have you dealt with loss? And if so, in recovery, how has loss been for you in recovery? Have you dealt with loss?
Yes.
Are you comfortable talking about any of it?
You know, I mean, some losses are greater than others. Some losses are of people, some losses are of things, and some losses are of self, right? So when it comes to this concept of loss, you know, yeah, I've had my little brother was 2.5 when he died. I lost him. I lost myself. I've lost relationships. But this idea of loss, I don't know. It's something I'd have to really sit back and think about, right?
Yeah.
I would say that in the idea of I lost something and then it caused me to do something, no. When it comes to like this idea, because the only consistent thing in life is change, right? That's the only thing that is consistent from the beginning to the end of time is change. Change happens every moment of every second of everything that isn't time because time doesn't exist, right? And so the only time that I have a problem with change is when I have resistance to the change. And that means with people dying. That means with loss of self. That means loss of this, because really my loss of self is usually just an evolution of self.
Right. Heat rocks on the podcast tonight. Heat rocks. Old job, new job. Matt, do you have any questions for our guest tonight? Anything you'd like for him to talk about?
Yeah, going back to like you talked about the friend that like saved your life, you know, and you OD'd. Were you grateful for him after you like
Yeah, it was a
realized that?
She.
And
she?
yes,
Sorry.
she put up pictures. I was gonna.
No.
I
Talk
did-
about the-
Hold on. No, my
Ex-girlfriend, yeah.
put the pictures up. The girl that saved me was a different girl.
I'm gonna interrupt you. When you put those when the pictures, you kind of went over it quickly. Was that a last ditch effort on her behalf to be like, maybe this will help him, maybe this will help him not want to use no more, or maybe get through his head?
Like help her not shoot up with me.
Okay, she was okay. I didn't know that part.
But
You
no,
didn't.
but I think that there was an idea because I was on a collision course with death. Right? I was on a collision course with death, and I think that she was hoping that it might find me some sort of deterrent to make me want to live. And yes, the person that saved my life, you know, there's these things that happen in life, right? So I've made amends to I was talking to a guy at the center today. I made amends to hundreds of people. Hundreds of people. She's one of the most powerful amends that I had to make because I helped train her. We all make our own choices in life, right? Like I'm not, I'm not adding or detracting to that. But I helped train her in this world of addiction and drugs, and she saved my life. She hid my pistol, right? Saved me from 120 months, basically, right? Drug, convicted felon in the commission of a drug crime with a firearm, right? And for all of that, after I'd done all those things, I threatened to kill her, right? And she's had periods of sobriety. She's had periods of getting loaded. And she's on collision course right now with a really long sentence or a grave. And I owe her a debt because without her making the choice to save my life, which some people just let people die on the floor, right? I couldn't have been alive long enough to be sitting in this chair today. And I'm forever grateful for her, you know, and I don't know what the universe's plan is with her. She reminds me of me, which is too smart for her own good. You know, oh, that's something I want to say. We have never seen one person too dumb to stay sober, but we've seen plenty of people too smart. I'm one of them. So,
Are you in contact with this person still?
yeah, she reaches out to me every once in a while, and she thanks me for never condemning her for where she is at right now. In fact, I was at Mount.
How hard is that to hear that?
It's actually pretty easy.
Because it doesn't sound like you believe, or like, no, I heard it wrong. No, forget
No,
it.
because I was drawing out. So
Yeah,
she sent me a message when I was on one of my vacations this year. I'll never forget. I was at Mount Rushmore, and
Oh, we didn't even get into any of the bike riding and all. That's next show.
Yeah.
We're getting into.
yeah. So she just sent me a message, and she's thanked me for being real, and never condemning her, and continuing to be grateful that I'm still alive. You know? So,
You need to handle it? Go ahead.
no.
I got some talking here. So, all right. It's life, man. That's what you've dealt with. Like, we're going to get into wrap up stuff anyways here. We're coming back on. Ken, real quick, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're going to come back on our show, correct? Ken, you're going to come back on our show, correct?
Yeah.
There you go. All right, so 2218, as Ken talks about having debts of gratitude and like this owing, I've shared with the audience this is where I'm at with 2218. Like, they didn't close their doors during COVID. I needed a place for a meeting. They stayed open. That's why, like, that's a big part of why I feel this club is just a big necessity in my life. So I preach it from a mountaintop that if you're able to help out, come down here, donate. If you're able to give your time, come down here, volunteer. They could use help. We've got rooms that need cleaning. We got yards that need raking. We got winter coming, all that. Like, they can chalk off community service hours if you need hours taken off. Come down here and volunteer your time. We got the Gratitude Cafe here on Fridays. Like, Jane just made homemade pizza, I think it was, and salad. And for $5, you're not getting fed like that anywhere else. So come down here, take advantage of the Gratitude Cafe. We've got Will Work for Recovery is starting a new meeting. It's called Walk and Talk at 7 o'clock. That is over off, what's their address? 2220 2nd Street. It's over, just, Will Work for Recovery. If you need to know where it is, reach out to me personally. I'll put something on there. But yeah, support 22, or Will Work for Recovery's new meeting coming up here a week from tomorrow. I heard they're going to have some amazing speakers. It's a speaker meeting, so check it out. Other than that, what other things we got going on, Matt? Anything else here? We got four-step workshop on Wednesdays here. Every Wednesday, come down here. Them are two of the guests that we've had on our show too, Jesse and Rick. Four-step workshop. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to wrap up with this. Wherever you're at in life, whatever it is that you're doing, just realize that you're worth whatever it takes to not give up on yourself. And, that experiences that I've had with those that I spoke about this evening, they were pieces of my story that have allowed me to not give up on myself, right? And so, I just want to impart each and every one of you that listen to this podcast, right? Get out, have an experience, be who you are, find what you want to be, learn what it is, and carry the message to be of service to those that are around you. And that, my friends, remember, gratitude is an action and thankfulness is a state of mind. If I do not act grateful, I will not feel grateful. I appreciate you guys for having me, and have a wonderful evening to all those that just managed to make it through this whole thing and listen to me.
What's this dude doing? He thinks he's just wrapping our show up?
That's right.
No, you still got to speak on something else. I got one. We have an ending question, dude. You just can't end my show. This dude
can
came
do
in here.
whatever I wanna
This
do.
dude came in here pumping ego. Like, here's when we're ending the show.
Listen,
You know,
I
here.
can do whatever.
You're right. You can.
Mic drop. Bye.
Hey, Matt, what are you grateful for this week?
This week, my family, because like I had court on Monday, and my ties to my old county are done now.
Nice.
Now it's just waiting to hear from probation up here in Hennepin, because my probation is going to be transferred up here. So like,
Cool.
I was grateful for it, especially for my uncle, because he went out. He took the day off of work on Monday to give me a ride 2 hours away to go to court.
Family.
And even after that, I was able to go like see my mom and both my grandmothers 45 minutes away from my court from my other county. And so I was able to go to my mom's and see my sister. My sister is 2 years younger than me. And I got some personal stuff of mine that my mom has. So especially my family, I'm grateful for 2218, this podcast, like, because like 2218 is my second family,
Right.
Besides like my biological family.
Yep.
I'm grateful for my like outpatient program, because like I'm able to like, because like now I'm considered a senior peer in my group,
Right.
because I've been there so long. But like this
Like
yesterday,
nursing home senior peer?
no.
Okay.
Can't be trying with them funnies. I love it.
So like I had the individual with my counselor the other day, and I expressed like how like I'm not ready to graduate. He gave me a date. I was like, we decided to make a tentative date, because I'm not sure if I'm ready to graduate yet, because I think there's still more I can learn from that program.
Hell yeah. Take advantage.
Oh yeah, I'm going to. Like, I think it's best that I take a tentative date, and when it gets close to that time, we talk about it and see if I feel ready yet by
Right.
that point. So I'm really grateful for like my outpatient program.
Cool.
I'm also like with like the relationships I've made through like NA here with the Phoenix NA group,
Yep.
the CMA group. I started coming here back in June, and like I built so many relationships with like Tad and Ken and Tim, and everybody else that's in there, like Rob and Sam.
Right.
Like when I don't show up sometimes, like I get a lot of texts from like Tim and Sarah that comes to the meetings.
People care.
Yeah, they check in on me, make sure I'm okay.
That's right.
Like not a lot of people do that. And I do the same thing for other people. Like if I don't see them for a couple of days, I'm like, hey, are you okay?
Right.
So that's what I'm grateful for this week.
Oh yeah. Don't you have something written down?
Oh yeah,
Come on, bro. You're dropping the ball. You're gone 1 week and you're forgetting this thing.
I got my quote.
Come on.
I
Bring
found
it.
I found a good one though. So it's this quote. It says, "Do something special to inspire someone else today, and chances are it will touch your life too."
Boom. That's a good quote. That's a quote. So Ken, I know you just spoke on a whole bunch of stuff, but what are you grateful for right now? Right now in your life today, what are you grateful for? Short answer, long answer, whatever you want. What are you grateful for?
I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be alive, to have a day, to be able to leave out of here and understand that I am enough. I'm enough for me, I'm enough with you, and I'm enough for everything that I've had the opportunity to touch in everyone else's life and my own.
And he rocks. Love it. So, what do you call a hobbit wearing a gold chain? Lord of the Blings.
Oh my god.
I didn't get to do my little deal
Tidbits.
today. Yeah, but that's all right. We had some other stuff going on. This week, I'm happy about Mom and Pops going on their anniversary thing. I was fortunate I got to send them to an ordeal for their anniversary. I'm grateful for that. Them are the things I'm grateful for in life today is putting a smile on others' faces, hopefully. Showing up for other people. Making my own experiences. Yes, being able to have some good guests on the show and trying to listen.
Trying again?
Yeah, trying to listen. I'm going to keep trying. You can't grab listen. With that, we have, I believe next week is going to be Rick and Jesse. I believe. I'm not 100% sure, so Elena maybe can pop that on there tonight or something, but apologize about not having that info right in front of me. Now we're going to do one. They call it what? Bell burners. We got
Buzzer beater.
Buzzer beater. Ken, get on your game. It's a one answer, real quick. You could be any superhero. What kind of superhero would you be?
I don't know. Myself.
This dude. Matt.
I got to be the own superhero in my story.
Superhero. What would it be? Who?
A shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter. There you go. Ken, superhero. Who would it be?
Me.
Good enough. All right, everyone.
How about you, Tim?
Invisibility man. Pervert man. Listen to you. Like Ken was saying, you are enough. Like, you're loved. You've got to reach out. No one knows if you're hurting. Like, contact one of us. Elena put her number up. It looked like Ken put his number up. Matt got his number on there. I put my number on there. You can find me at Timothy J. Warren on Facebook. Reach out, please. You are enough. You're loved. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to be lonely. There's rooms like this all over the world for you. Reach out, network, just tell somebody, talk to someone. Thank you for listening. We love you. It's a wrap.